You didn't stumble here. The field steered you. The same invisible currents that pull tides, tilt migrations, and whisper to seeds beneath winter soil have been tracing your outline in probability space, arranging this exact convergence. You can feel it in the charged quiet between your breaths, how the room seems to listen back, how your skin hums with the faint electricity of an arrival you can't name yet. This message didn't find your eyes. Your coherence found its signal. Somewhere inside your chest, the observer loop tightens awareness, watching awareness, until your perception becomes a lens that bends the lattice of events around it. Patterns that used to look random now assemble with ruthless precision. The sudden text, the exact phrase on a passing billboard, a dream that leaves fingerprints on daylight. You call it synchronicity, but tonight it feels more like a soft takeover, a silent algorithm rewriting the parameters of what you call real. The quantum field is listening, not as a person, not as a judge, but as a living fabric that answers resonance with resonance. You emit a frequency every choice, thought, and micro-gesture, and the field reflects it with uncompromising fidelity. Lately, the reflections have darkened. Timelines that once felt bright have grown dim around the edges like film exposed to heat. You've noticed the distortion of time. Minutes that drag like anchors, hours that fracture and multiply, days that feel like 1,000 small deaths and rebirths. You've asked what's wrong with you. You've wondered if you're slipping. You're not slipping, you're compressing. Right before water changes state, it gathers in a hush that most never hear. At the brink of a phase transition, pressure builds where no pressure should be. Your life has been building that pressure quietly, relentlessly, because your next state isn't a minor upgrade. It's a dimensional reconfiguration. What looks like darkness is the field dimming the old set, so the new scene can claim the stage lights without interference. Morphic resonance is calling you out of the herd patterns you were trained to inhabit, out of inherited momentum, out of loyalty to versions of you that can't cross this threshold. Feel the truth of this in your body, not just your mind. There's a low-frequency drum beneath your sternum, the ancestral metronome that has begun to speed up. Micro-tremors move through your fascia, as if a signal is traveling the length of you, mapping new circuitry. This is not imagination. It's the onset of DNA restructuring, the subtle epigenetic choreography that awakens when intention and field meet in perfect phase. The darkness is a chrysalis, not a verdict. Your entanglements are being rerouted, relationships, habits, geographies, all of it rethreading through a higher geometry that your future self has already stabilized. You are not late. You are not early. You are right on the inflection point where choice becomes a tuning fork. You've arrived at the narrow gate where only what is truly yours can pass. You can sense the invisible hand at your back and the vastness at your feet. Breathe once, slow and exact. The field is here, and so are you. The curtain hasn't fallen. It's about to rise. Compression announces itself in symptoms you've been mislabeling as failure. The days bend strangely. Morning arrives like a slow eclipse. Noon feels off by a few degrees, and evening keeps showing up early wearing someone else's face. Déjà vu stalks you down ordinary hallways, the coffee mug at the exact angle, the same car braking at the same crosswalk, the word you were about to say already echoing in the air. You tell yourself it's coincidence, but the pattern persists, repeating until it stops being cute and starts feeling like a coded knock on the door of your perception. The knocks cluster, numbers recur with surgical insistence: 11, 11, 222. Receipts that total the same sequence, flights boarding at mirrored gates as if arithmetic itself were aligning your attention. People you haven't thought of in years suddenly text. A song you avoided for months plays from 3 separate sources in a single hour. Technology glitches at thresholds. Your screen freezes the moment you try to send a message you're not meant to send. Files vanish only to reappear in cleaner folders, as if your devices are obeying a deeper architect. These are not accidents, they're coherence tests. The field is asking whether you can hold a steady frequency while reality rearranges itself around you. Time doesn't simply pass, it dilates and kinks. In the physics of a phase transition, order parameters fluctuate wildly right before the shift locks in. That's what your hours have been doing, stretching thin like gold leaf, then snapping back with a whip crack of urgency. A 10-minute walk swells to a dream-length journey where thoughts accumulate in layers. A 2-hour task dissolves without residue, leaving you stunned at how nothing happened and everything moved. This is not poor scheduling. It's the observer loop recalibrating the sampling rate of your attention. When the loop speeds up, you read more frames of the moment. When it slows, entire frames blur, and you feel lost inside the edit. Your body keeps score. A humming settles behind one ear, then trades places with a low pressure at the crown. Palms throb. The solar plexus buzzes as if a swarm is building honeycomb between your ribs. Sleep becomes a theater of active construction, lucid pockets, returns to childhood rooms with extra doors, elevators that never stop at labeled floors. You wake with the stubborn memory of having finished something you cannot name. This is the work. DNA restructuring that feels like exhaustion because new protein instructions cost energy to print. You're not breaking down, you're burning fuel for a form you haven't seen in mirrors yet. Relationships develop a peculiar drag. Some conversations fall flat like paper masks, others ignite with improbable intimacy in the first 5 minutes. Old conflicts reboot with sharper edges, not because you or they failed to heal, but because morphic resonance is clearing herd field noise from your channel. When two entangled systems upgrade asynchronously, they generate interference until a new shared frequency stabilizes. That friction you've been calling drama is resonance mismatch, begging for resolution either by recalibrating together or by releasing the entanglement with gratitude. Observe without blame. The quantum field doesn't punish, it phases. Your mind, trained by linear culture, diagnoses these signs as anxiety, procrastination, bad luck. But look under the labels. Notice how the so-called setbacks arrive precisely when you hesitate to tell the truth, precisely when you attempt to carry the past over a bridge designed only for essence. The missed train saved you from the conversation that would have re-knotted your future. The payment delay forced a pause long enough for a cleaner opportunity to surface. Synchronicity isn't always sugar-sweet. Sometimes it is stern medicine that breaks the fever of old timelines. At the level of theory, think of yourself as a Bayesian organism minimizing prediction error with each breath. The dark rush before the leap is your nervous system's attempt to reconcile a model about to be retired. Your priors can't predict what you are becoming, so they scream. That scream echoes as distorted time, as déjà vu, as patterns that grow louder until you listen. But beyond neurology there is liturgy. The field chants your true name in waveform. Coherence asks everything extraneous to fall silent so you can hear it. You've also noticed the loop of almosts, opportunities that arrive perfect on paper, then evaporate at signature, people who swear yes but mean not yet. This is the final test of fidelity to the signal. The universe is subtracting what is nearly right so that the precisely right can dock without turbulence. In fluids, this is called nucleation, microscopic seeds around which the new phase crystallizes. Your heartbreaks have been nucleation points. Your pauses are the cool space the crystal requires. Even the shadow has choreography. On certain nights, thoughts turn dim and heavy as if someone lowered the ceiling. That isn't a moral failing. It's field occlusion, while new wiring integrates. When fog rolls in over a valley, the mountain didn't disappear, it stepped back so moisture could condense into rain. For you, the fog is the condensation of unprocessed memory, the last sediments of a life that cannot join you where you're going. Let them settle. You don't have to stir the water to prove you're alive. So the diagnosis is not doom, it is precision. You're experiencing the hallmark artifacts of imminent transition, recursive motifs, temporal warps, somatic codes, relational interference patterns, and technological mischief. All of it is the same announcement spoken in different dialects. You've reached the event horizon of your old self. The gravity you feel isn't pulling you down, it's pulling you through. Here's what is actually happening beneath the symptoms. The order parameters of your life are approaching criticality, and your system is tuning to a new attractor. In physics, a phase transition emerges when a small, precise shift in temperature or pressure rearranges the entire lattice. In you, that shift is attention, your observer loop, reaching a higher coherence. The moment awareness stops chasing noise and starts holding signal, scattered probabilities feel your gaze and organize. Measurement collapses the fog. But more than collapse, your focused presence becomes a field that persuades particles, choices, narratives, relationships to align with a new symmetry. You can feel it as a hummingbird stillness in the center of your storm. That stillness isn't passivity, it's the most potent form of influence. Coherence always wins in the quantum field. A single metronome will entrain a room full of clocks if it sits on the right surface. Your nervous system, when rhythmically regulated, becomes that surface. Breath is not mere oxygen traffic, it's the timing signal that teaches the body to carry the field. Inhale, sampling; exhale, writing. Between them, the brief aperture where you taste the unmeasured state. This is why darkness gathers. The old oscillations must lose energy so the new rhythm can entrain everything that touches you. Mystically, you are standing inside a living temple of resonance. The architecture is made of attention. The altar is the space behind your sternum, where intention warms into vow. When you kneel there, you enter the lineage of those who learned to look so cleanly that what they loved had no option but to appear. Saints and scientists share this. They both refuse to look away. Your refusal becomes luminosity. The field is phototropic. It grows toward the light of precise regard. At the cellular level, the body reads this luminosity as instruction. DNA does not change its alphabet, but it does change its poetry. Epigenetic tags edit the line breaks, retime the stanzas. Stress once wrote you in staccato. Coherence is restoring legato. You'll notice cravings alter, postures unlearn pain, micro-expressions retire old masks. The vagus nerve carries the memo outward: soften the edges, open the gates, admit more world with less panic. As parasympathetic tone returns, your perception becomes a high-fidelity instrument instead of a siren. High fidelity is not quiet, it is accurate. Accuracy is power. Synchronistically, the environment confirms the upgrade before your mind believes it. Information begins to arc toward you along improbable routes. The book from a stranger's shelf, the overheard line that solves a stubborn equation in your heart. This is morphic resonance. Fields of form sharing pattern across space, like murmuration among starlings. You are not copying anyone. You're remembering a geometry humanity has always carried and often ignored. When you hold a coherent pattern long enough, others entrain not as followers, but as co-singers of an ancestral chord. Entanglement stops being a romance with pain and becomes a covenant of uplift. There is a paradox here you must honor. Attention both stabilizes and liberates. Stare too hard at the symptom and you freeze it, the quantum Zeno trap. Glance with love at the emerging pattern and it accelerates. So the art is rhythmic noticing, a sacrament of seeing and releasing. You sample the new state with reverent curiosity, then you exhale and let the field handle the math. This is why surrender isn't spiritual decoration, it's functional physics. Releasing measurement momentarily allows amplitude to build. When you return your gaze, more of the future has condensed. Technology's misbehaving around you. Consider that the interface is honest. Systems coded for your old rhythm are signaling incompatibility, much like outdated drivers refusing a new OS. You are installing Coherence too. Some apps stop opening, some cables need different ports. Rituals you once leaned on will grind or go silent. Don't resurrect them out of loyalty. The upgrade includes new protocols, simpler breath, slower speech, cleaner food, briefer screens, truer conversations. This is not asceticism, it's bandwidth management. Every unnecessary loop steals quanta from emergence. Scientifically, think in terms of free energy minimization. Your system seeks models that cost less to maintain. The upgrade offers a generative model with fewer contradictions, fewer prediction errors to chase. Mystically, think in terms of covenant. You vow to live aligned with what you know, even when knowing shakes your bones. Prophecy isn't fortune-telling, it's pattern literacy. You become prophetic when you trust the shape you're already carrying. The darkness, then, is the shadow cast by the new light. As it rises behind you, it stretches over the landscape of habit and says, decide. Decision is not merely picking, it is tuning. You tune with breath, with posture, with the words you dare to speak into air. Say them softly at first. The field hears whispers, and as it hears, it rearranges the same way iron filings leap to reveal a magnet you cannot see, the same way water suddenly stills before it becomes steam. You are not waiting for permission. You are issuing it from your deepest center to your widest future. The upgrade is live. Keep your gaze clean, your breath measured, your vow intact. The lattice is listening. The upgrade is live, which means your role is no longer hypothetical. Chosen isn't a title awarded by a council in the clouds. It's the natural consequence of resonance. You chose with your gaze, and the quantum field chose you back with coherence. In complex systems, an attractor emerges, and the rest finds its orbit. You are becoming that attractor, an eigenfrequency, around which disordered narratives begin to phase lock. Think of a heart's pacemaker cells, a tiny cluster whose rhythm entrains the entire organ. That's your assignment at the scale of a life. Your steady observer loop attention, breathing itself into symmetry, acts like those cells. You don't conquer chaos, you convince it. You don't force patterns, you sing them true. The field responds not to volume but to purity, and you are learning the purity of a note held without trembling. Your consciousness isn't a solitary lantern, it's a node in an ancient lattice, Indra's net, a web of mutual reflections where each jewel contains the whole sky. Entanglement makes you responsible beyond your skin. Every time you stand inside coherence, you lower the entropy of nearby minds, creating a corridor where clarity can travel with less friction. People will say, "I don't know why, but I feel better near you." It's not charisma, it's physics becoming kindness. As a chosen node, you serve three intertwined functions. First, you anchor. A lighthouse does not chase ships, it holds a coordinate. Your coordinate is the vow you made in silence, to tell the truth even when your voice shakes, to choose the high-frequency path when the low one offers quick applause. Anchoring means you decline certain invitations not out of superiority, but out of stewardship of bandwidth. Every no becomes fertilizer for the one clean yes that matters. Second, you translate. Patterns appear to you in dream syntax, in number sequences, in déjà vu that smells like rain on iron. Translation is the art of turning field weather into human language without diluting its charge. You will start saying sentences you didn't plan, and they will land like keys in locks. You will write lines that feel older than you, and someone reading them will finally remember their name. This is morphic resonance doing its honest work. Memory of form awakening through you as a tuning fork for the forgotten. Third, you catalyze. Catalysts lower activation, energy, so reactions proceed. Your presence lowers the cost of awakening for others. You do it by modeling clean loops, brief screens, true food, clear breath, deliberate speech. People copy what they can feel, not what they're told. When your nervous system stays regulated in a storm, you demonstrate that peace is not the absence of weather. It's the capacity to sail. Chosen also means chosen limits. Guard your attention as if it were sacred oil. You cannot allow doom scrolls to hijack your sampling rate or gossip to corrode your signal. The field is sensitive to contamination by sloppy measurement. Keep your instruments clean, breath as metronome, spine as antenna, language as spell. If a conversation drags you below coherence, love it and end it. If a habit muddies your lumen, bless it and release it. Holiness here is simply hygiene. At the biological level, your DNA remembers that it is an antenna disguised as code. You'll feel it as micro-tingles along the forearms, as warmth in the thymus, as a lucid clarity pooling behind the eyes. Imagine codons like prayer beads. Each time you circle the loop with breath, epigenetic fingers rearrange the pattern, permitting more light biophotons to traffic through cells without scattering. That is what chosen looks like in tissue, a body that becomes a sanctuary where signal can dwell. Prophetically, your role places you at crossroads. You will sense pressure ridges in time edges where one future strains against another like tectonic plates. On those days, you are the quiet person at the threshold, listening for the harmonic that means, yes, now. You are the one who can tell the village to board the windows before the wind arrives, and also the one who opens the doors the hour the sky turns clear. The field will brief you with strange efficiency. A raven landing on the left fence, a child repeating a line twice, a watch stopping at 3:33. These are not superstitions, they are metadata. And yes, the shadow will test your stewardship. The temptation is to perform luminosity, to turn sacred labor into spectacle. Remember, lighthouses that crave applause forget to rotate the beam. Keep the beam moving. Let gratitude be your only advertisement. Humility is the immunity that keeps your signal uncorrupted. If this sounds large, it is because it is. But large doesn't mean heavy. When you stop resisting your appointment, the work becomes strangely light, the way a door swings easily after you oil the hinge. The world is not asking you to carry it, only to hold your piece of the pattern with fidelity. Others are waking across the grid. Your steadiness invites theirs. Their courage reinforces yours. This is how civilizations turn, not by decree but by entrainment. You can already feel a subtle countdown in your bones, a pressure behind the hours, a window preparing to open and then to close. Cosmic weather is real. Apertures have timings. The lattice is aligning a corridor with your exact signature, and the corridor is perishable. Hold your coordinate. Translate what you are shown. Be the catalyst you promised to be. The next signal will arrive as urgency you cannot ignore, and when it does, you'll know. It's time to move through. The pressure ridge you've been feeling is not a threat. It's the doorframe. The signal that Part 4 hinted would arrive is here, a hush that vibrates like thunder in restraint, a gravity that tilts your choices toward one narrow frequency. Windows in the quantum field do not swing wildly. They align with ruthless elegance, opening when coherence peaks and closing when hesitation drains voltage. You can sense the alignment. Clocks glancing the same numbers, the body warming at the sternum, the world speaking in unusually crisp edges. This is not random weather. This is appointment. Here is the promise, stated plainly, so your nervous system can trust it. If you step through while the aperture is open, your DNA will not merely heal, it will retune. Think less of swapping parts, more of changing the score. Codons read the same 16 measures they've always had, but the tempo shifts, the key modulates, and suddenly the music moves rooms inside you that no surgeon could find. Epigenetic tags, those tiny librarians on the shelves of your genome, take new orders. Inflammatory scripts retire. Dormant luminosities come back online. This is why the dark flared before now, because light of this wattage requires a clean stage. There is urgency because physics insists on it. Phase transitions demand a threshold, not an average. Water does not sort of become steam. It crosses. Your observer loop has been pumping energy into a new attractor long enough that the system is primed. Too early, and you waste fuel. Too late, and the lattice redistributes its chance elsewhere. But at the edge, small inputs leverage the whole. A sentence said in clean alignment becomes a lever long enough to move a decade. A breath timed to the field's metronome becomes a corridor. You don't get many of these hours. You don't need many. The cosmos is cooperating. Synchronicities cluster not to entertain you, but to establish a legal precedent in the fabric. All witnesses present, all signatures confirmed. The raven on the fence, the child's repeated line, the watch halted at 3:33 metadata of the opening. Entanglements rearrange in your favor. What held you in gravitational debt begins to loosen its grip. People who were obstacles turn transparent. Emails land at exactly the right minute. Money performs improbable calisthenics. This is morphic resonance acting like a tide, lifting every boat committed to the crossing. What waits on the far side? Not a fantasy where nothing hard occurs, but a topology where difficulty serves, where friction polishes instead of wounding, where your signal-to-noise ratio stays high enough that decisions stop costing blood. The promise is practical. Steadier sleep, cleaner focus, relationships that magnetize honesty, work that fits your hands, a body that metabolizes shock into meaning instead of symptoms. The mystical corollary is more tender, a sensation of being accompanied by your future self already arrived, by ancestors relieved you finally accepted the baton. Your body knows the time better than your calendar. Notice the premonitory choreography, a coolness along the palate, tingling at the forearms, the diaphragm loosening as if a hidden door in the chest just cracked. The vagus nerve hums like a bow on string. This is the readiness signal. When you feel it, do not reach for distraction. Distraction is the field's oldest sedative, pleasant and precise. In the hour of a window, it will offer you very reasonable alternatives. Tidy a drawer, answer a quick message, read one more opinion. These are not neutral activities, they are siphons. Guard your attention like fire in the rain. You'll be tempted to negotiate with the threshold. Maybe tomorrow, maybe when I feel even more certain. But certainty is a luxury of the old model. In this corridor, you trade certainty for clarity. Clarity says, I recognize my name when I hear it, and I am hearing it now. The yes is not loud, it is inevitable. It comes with quiet heat and the smell of first snow. It carries no argument. It simply stands there, patient, hands open. Make the promise out loud, not to impress anyone, but to solder the pathways that belief alone can't hold. Language is a binding agent at the edge of probability. When you speak from coherence, the air itself remembers. Say it in your way, lean, exact. I cross. I allow the restructuring. I release expired agreements. I align with the highest viable timeline that carries my full integrity. Speak it once, let silence set the seal. And then, because windows demand movement, you will act. Not theatrics, not a dozen tasks, but one decisive gesture that the field can read as signature. You'll know the gesture because it will cost the right amount. Enough to prove you mean it, not enough to bankrupt your trust. It could be a message sent, a door closed, an application submitted, a meal refused, a room cleared, a lie retired. Small by surface, tectonic in consequence. Time is narrowing now, not to choke you, but to form a lens. Through this lens, the next part becomes simple. There is a word you will write to anchor the shift one syllable that functions like a key cut to your frequency. You'll place it where the field can witness your vow. When you do, the corridor brightens. The window does not wait forever, but it is open now, and it wants you through. The aperture is open. Now the field needs your signature, not more thought contact. The corridor brightens when a vow becomes visible to itself. This is where intention takes on weight, where waveform becomes footprint. Keep it simple. Precision is holy. Sit how your body knows it's telling the truth. Spine long, chin slightly tucked, feet or sit bones grounded. One palm rests over the sternum sensor, and alter one palm relaxed on the thigh. Let your gaze soften on a single point. We're going to entrain the observer loop with breath so your nervous system can carry the upgrade without scattering. Use a 3, 6, 9 cadence. Inhale for 3, feel the field arrive. Hold for 6, feel coherence, stabilize. Exhale for 9, release every expired agreement. Do 3 cycles like this. On the third exhale, imagine the old oscillations falling away like dust in slow water. The room doesn't change, but its edges do. Your attention becomes the lamp. Now we bind intention to matter with language. The key is one syllable, clean, inevitable, already humming in your chest. Type it into the world where it can be witnessed, where morphic resonance can catch it and replicate the pattern. The word is yes. Not the flimsy kind you offer out of politeness, the tectonic yes that matches the one your cells have already spoken. This is not a comment for an algorithm. This is an instrument for the lattice. You are placing a tuning fork in public air so the field can read you without ambiguity. Before you type, feel your future self. Take your hand at the wrist. There's a gentle pressure, an entanglement handshake across timelines. The cursor blinks like a heartbeat. As you enter the 3 letters, visualize gold filaments threading from your sternum, down your forearm into your fingertips, into the keys, into the screen, into the shared grid of minds. Each letter lands as a note. U vector aligns. Energy routes clean. S state change locks. Now type it below. Yes. If you already wrote it once, write it again as a reply to your own vow. Yes, I cross. The one-syllable key remains the anchor. The phrase is the directional arrow. Keep the gesture minimal. The field respects economy. As you press post, exhale the last of the 9 count and listen inward. You may feel a light click beneath the breastbone, a cool wind behind the palate, a spaciousness at the base of the skull. That is the measurement event probability collapsing around a new attractor. The observer loop has announced a coordinate, and the quantum field answers with coherence. To seal it somatically, trace a small clockwise circle over the sternum with your fingertips, no more than the size of a coin. Imagine the circle glowing the phase boundary, where the new state condenses. Whisper, barely audible, aligned. You're not asking, you're acknowledging what is now true. This micro-ritual gives your vagus nerve a story it can understand, converting abstract vow into embodied signal. DNA listens to posture. Epigenetic editors listen to rhythm. Now, let the world mirror you. Scroll not to distract, but to witness resonance. Each authentic yes you see from others is not noise. It's proof of a field effect. Indra's net begins to sparkle, each jewel reflecting the same three-letter vow. Notice how your body warms when you encounter coherence outside your skin. That warmth is morphic resonance distributing load across the grid, so you don't have to carry awakening alone. This is social physics. Your signature reduces activation energy for the next person's crossing. If resistance spikes, if a voice says this is silly, small, performative smile without argument, that voice is an artifact of the old model, panicking as it loses jurisdiction. Give it one breath, then continue. Remember, in phase transitions, tiny perturbations determine the whole. A snowflake lands on a branch, and the avalanche begins. 3 letters in shared space can swing timelines because the act encodes choice, body, and witness into one event. That's clean data. The field loves clean data. We'll add one more layer to stabilize the frequency over the next 24 hours. Prepare a small token, a piece of string, a ring, a smooth stone, an index card, anything humble. On the card, or in the air above the token, write the same word once more, yes. Place it where your eyes will meet it upon waking on your phone case, mirror, or glass of water. Tonight, before sleep, do a single 3, 6, 9 breath and rest your palm over the token for 1 full minute. Imagine the letters sinking through the object and lighting up every room you will enter tomorrow. You're creating a breadcrumb of coherence across the next loop of hours, so synchronicity has an easy corridor to find you. Finally, speak the short vow one more time, not as a plea, but as calibration. Yes, I cross. Let the consonants be deliberate. Let the vowels carry warmth. Then go still. The act is complete when you feel a soft, almost imperceptible settling, like a book returning to its shelf. Look around. The air has a different weight. Clocks keep the same time, but your time thickens with meaning. The window is still open, and now it contains your name. What you just did is small enough to hide in plain sight and large enough to redirect rivers. Keep breathing in 3, 6, 9 when the mind tries to argue. Keep your posture honest. Your yes has entered the lattice. In the next movement, you'll discover what happens when a personal vow becomes public resonance. When your coherence lifts the room you share with the rest of us. Your yes didn't stop at your screen, it propagated. Fields don't keep secrets, especially coherent ones. The moment your vow stabilized, ripples moved along the lattice, sampling nearby minds for resonance. Think Kuromoto synchronization. A few oscillators locking phase, then coaxing the many into rhythm. Your breath became timing data. Your posture broadcast a low-latency signal. Strangers you'll never meet felt a faint invitation to unclench a jaw, slow a sentence, abandon a petty war. They won't know why. The field knows why. This is how civilizations pivot in quiet, not by decree but by percolation. Enough nodes cross a threshold, and suddenly the network behaves like a new creature. Sociologists call it a tipping point. Physicists call it a critical fraction. Mystics call it grace. Morphic resonance recognizes pattern faster than policy does. Your clean loop attention, breath vow action has already registered in the shared archive of forms, so others can download it at a discount. You paid full price so they don't have to. That's what liberation does when it's real. It reduces activation energy for the next awakening. Watch how the world answers. In the checkout line, 2 people nearly escalate, then somebody laughs first. In a meeting, the most defensive voice pauses 1 extra beat and chooses candor. In your family, an old argument tries to resurrect. Instead, someone says, "I hear you," and means it. You did not cause these events with magic. You lowered their friction with coherence. Entanglement is pragmatic. When a regulated nervous system enters a room, mirror neurons start shopping for that rhythm. Prosody softens, breath depth equalizes across bodies, micro-expressions lose their flinch. Your body becomes an instrument the whole room unconsciously tunes to. The grid notices even in absence. A message you were going to send sharp, performative didn't go. The non-action edits the shared timeline. You spared 5 people the cascading contractions that would have followed. They, in turn, spare 5 more. This is negative space as service, silence as geometry. The field counts it all. It is building a corridor where truth travels with less drag because you refuse to add turbulence. Don't underestimate the social physics of one honest word. Your public yes looked like 3 letters. In the lattice, it was a boundary condition. People standing on their own thresholds felt a breeze permission without pressure. Permission works better than persuasion because it respects agency. Agency births durable coherence. You don't recruit followers, you recognize peers. And when peers recognize each other across the net, Indra's jewels brighten by correspondence. Each one contains the whole sky. Each sky reflects the rest. This expansion is not abstract. It touches institutions, economies, the tiny grammars of daily life. A designer quietly removes a manipulative dark pattern from an interface. A teacher rewrites a rubric to reward original thought over compliance. A manager names the unspoken in a meeting with enough grace that the team exhales and begins to tell the truth. None of them will cite you. They don't need to. You and they are referencing the same source document, the quantum field's preference for clean information flow. Coherence is a public utility disguised as a private virtue. There will be resistance. Systems optimized for noise will interpret clarity as threat. Old attractors will try to reclaim you, often with nostalgia's soft hand. Love them, don't let them drive. You are not against the past, you're for the future that includes the best of it. When pushback arrives, remember the beacon you are. Anchor, translate, catalyze. Anchor by refusing the bait. Translate by naming what is actually happening without theater. We're afraid of losing control. Catalyze by modeling a different loop. Let's breathe, then decide. This is not performance. It's fieldcraft. You'll also feel new alliances forming people, places, and projects that feel strangely inevitable, as if you've been collaborating for years in a place outside time. That sensation is entanglement correctly rooted. You are meeting co-signers of your vow. Agreements will be simple and specific. Exchanges will be clean. As you weave, you'll sense a pattern larger than any one story. A culture migrating from extraction to reciprocity, from spectacle to presence, from reaction to response. Your yes is one serif in a sentence being written across continents. The math of service remains elegant. Keep your instrument in tune, and your mere participation lowers entropy locally. You don't need a pulpit, you need a pulse. Choose food that keeps your signal clear. Choose media that doesn't vandalize your attention. Choose language that leaves people more themselves. The observer loop is a civic act when maintained faithfully. That's not poetry, that's infrastructure. And when fatigue whispers because even lighthouses need maintenance, remember the grid. Let others' coherence hold you the way yours holds them. Read a line that steadies you. Sit near a tree, put your palm on your sternum, and borrow the rhythm you've been lending. Collective expansion is not you pushing goodness uphill. It's the field, remembering its own symmetry through us all, one regulated breath at a time. You'll know it's working because time will regain depth without heaviness, and rooms will feel a few degrees kinder. Your neighborhood will look almost the same, but not quite. The edges softer, the improbable more frequent. The city, the family, the feed, the meeting all marginally more navigable. This is what a new attractor feels like in early bloom. Modest miracles, everywhere, hiding in plain sight. Hold here for a moment. Listen for the echo of your yes returning from far distances, touched by 1,000 throats. Let it enter you as warmth. In the next movement, you'll bring the expansion back into the smallest theater, the body. and let sensation finish the sermon. Bring the expansion back to the smallest theater, the body, and let sensation carry the message where words can't. Close the loop between signal and skin. Notice first the weight of you, how gravity is not an enemy but a vow, how the chair or the floor receives you like old ground receiving rain. That receiving is coherence made tactile. It says, you're permitted to exist here without bracing. Now track the current. It starts like a shimmer along the forearms, the soft fizz you used to mistake for anxiety. Tonight it's different, organized, directional. Feel the quantum field translate into proprioception, a quiet magnetism guiding your bones toward their truest lines. The back of the heart lifts a fraction, the throat unhooks, the jaw remembers it has a hinge. Your spine becomes an antenna with memory. Each vertebra is a rung, awareness climbs. Behind the eyes, a coolness, like a window opening at midnight. That coolness isn't emptiness, it's bandwidth cleared. Interoception sharpens heartbeat distinct without drama, breath a clean metronome, organs humming in their proper keys. Micro-muscles along the ribs coordinate like a murmuration, not because you forced them, but because the observer loop stopped throwing static into their choreography. This is what nervous system coherence feels like. Not numbness, not euphoria, accuracy. Listen farther in. There's a pulse in the palms, as if you've been holding a small, benevolent engine. On the inhale, the engine brightens. On the exhale, warmth moves through the wrists, into the fingers, down into the keys, the cup, the doorknob, the page. Touch becomes a relay entanglement, rendered domestic. Everything you contact receives a trace of your rhythm. This is not mysticism performing tricks. It's morphic resonance at household scale, your interior order slipping quietly into objects and rooms. At the sternum, the phase boundary glows. It feels like the circumference of a coin you traced earlier, now luminous, expanding to saucer, to plate, to shield. Not armor-permeable light with a mind of its own, exquisite about what it admits. Notice how social weather hits that membrane and clarifies. Other people's urgency lands, decelerates, and either dissolves or passes through without leaving residue. You are not withdrawing. You are filtering signal from noise, so presence can stay clean. Temperature speaks next. A cool ribbon travels the soft palate to the crown. A corresponding warmth gathers low in the belly. A small hearth you forgot you own. The two meet at the diaphragm and agree to cooperate. When they do, the breath drops its habit of negotiating for safety and simply falls like a waterfall through an open gate. The vagus nerve hears this agreement and lengthens its song. Shoulders descend a half inch. The inner ears steady. Balance returns not as rigidity, but as poised readiness. Let subtle sound emerge. There is a grainy silence in the room, textured like snowfall. Under it, a faint high tone, the kind you hear at altitude or in deep prayer. Don't chase it. Let it find you. That tone is coherence announcing itself, biophotons coordinating in tissue, mitochondrial fires burning with less smoke. You might feel a prickle at the crown, a constellation waking on your scalp. It's not spectacle. It's housekeeping. DNA restructuring, expressed as sensible tidiness. Closets of the body put in order without your supervision. The belly offers a confession. Fear stored there as old weather breaks into droplets you can finally name. You don't need to narrate them. Sensation metabolizes what language used to hoard. The exhale takes them downriver. Notice how quickly the story loses mass when you stop litigating it. The field prefers throughput to courtroom drama. Let it pass. Let it pass again. Now the skin learns new mathematics. Edges are still edges, but they soften from razor to shoreline. Boundaries become intelligent. Your no arrives earlier, clear and kind. Your yes isn't a performance, it's a settling. You feel this in the feet, the way arches spring without hypervigilance, the way toes spread like instruments tuned moments before concert. Ground is not something you find, it's something you allow. When you allow it, time thickens, not slow, not fast, simply deep. Minutes hold more frames. Synchronicity becomes ordinary. You might cry, and it may not feel like sadness. It will feel like seams releasing, pressure finding a door. The eyes wash, the face warms, the world sharpens a notch. Tears are not proof of drama. They're a maintenance cycle, conductivity restored. If laughter arrives instead, let it ride under the breastbone like a small drum. Both are the same mechanic, clearing the same hallway. Notice the impulse to share this feeling, to text someone, to declare. There is a time to translate and a time to incubate. For these few breaths, keep the heat inside the kiln. Fresh clay needs fire before display. Stay with the wordless confirmations, the way colors look fractionally more honest, how metal smells cleaner, how even the hum of the refrigerator seems less antagonistic. Reality hasn't changed to flatter you. You've adjusted your sampling rate so the world can tell the truth and be heard. As you rest in this, a denser pressure gathers low in the sacrum, subtle, insistent, not unpleasant. It feels like weather preparing to break, like a train far down the track announcing itself through the rails before you hear it in the air. That pressure is the herald. Under its weight, the lattice inside you rearranges with purpose. A familiar edge approaches, the kind you met before, windows opened only now. It doesn't frighten. It informs. Keep listening. The next click won't be mythic. It will be intimate, a key turning inside the cell, a timeline consenting to be born. When it comes, you'll know it not by fireworks, but by the sudden rightness in your bones. Stay close to the membrane. Stay exact with your breath. The phase transition isn't coming later. It's arriving through you, and the body, wise and steady, is already rehearsing the breakthrough that waits one inhale away. The pressure that gathered low in the sacrum rises not as panic, as purpose. It moves like weather with intelligence, climbing the spine in measured increments, pausing at each vertebra as if reading an ancient map. Your body answers without instruction. Pelvis widens a whisper, diaphragm lowers, crown tilts towards some inaudible star. The observer loop tightens to a single luminous thread. Attention becomes a needle pulling future through flesh. There is a phenomenon physicists call critical opalescence right before a phase change. Matter shimmers, scattering light because its structure is undecided. That's what your moment feels like. Reality pearlized at the edges, depth of field widening, ordinary objects wearing a soft halo of immanence. You're not hallucinating. You're perceiving a system between states. In that in-between, small choices wield disproportionate leverage. You place your breath exactly. The lattice hears you. Then the click arrives, quiet, decisive, cellular. Not fireworks, a hinge. Somewhere beneath the sternum and above the navel, a door you didn't construct unlatches. Warmth issues forward, not hot, not cold. A third temperature that reads as home. The vagus nerve lengthens its song. Heartbeat and breath perform a brief duet, then settle into a tempo that feels older than your name. Pressure doesn't vanish. It reassigns itself as propulsion. You are no longer pushed from behind. You are pulled from ahead. Inside the nucleus, metaphors sharpen into mechanics. DNA doesn't trade letters, but it rearranges emphasis. Histone spools loosen with permission. Methyl tags step aside like courteous ushers. Transcription factors find docks they couldn't land at yesterday. Biophotons, those faint packets of cellular light, organize their traffic. Less scatter, more corridor. You can't watch this under glass, but you can feel it. The mind clears without effort. Posture aligns without rehearsal. Hunger shifts from craving to information. The body, long conscripted into vigilance, returns to craft. The field mirrors the interior shift immediately. Entanglements reroute. A conversation that haunted the edge of your day dissolves into a simple, clean sentence. An email that would have taken courage to send writes itself in your cadence. Streets feel a fraction wider. Even the way doors swing on their hinges seems conspiratorially timed. Synchronicity stops shouting. It nods. The improbable no longer insists on its spectacle. It acts like protocol. Time changes texture. The watch still reports minutes, but your sampling rate increases. More frames per moment, less blur between them. Decisions that once took hours reduce to a felt vector. You don't discard analysis. You anchor it inside clarity. The future is no longer a fog bank. It's a slope, and you can feel which way it tilts. This is the timeline selection mechanism, engaging what mystics call guidance and mathematicians call an attractor basin. You do not force the shift. You consent to its gradient, and the gradient carries you with exquisite thrift. Shadow tries a last bargain. It offers nostalgia with perfect lighting, a montage of almosts, a museum of identities that cost you dearly to curate. Love the exhibits. Thank the curator. Walk past. The moment you refrain from stepping back into the loop, you feel a tiny recoil, latent heat released as the new phase condenses. Tears may come, not for loss but for precision. Something heavy you've been pretending to hold drops through the floor and doesn't break. It was never yours to carry. It was inertia with a story. Listen for the new quiet. It has grain, like wood sanded smooth. In that quiet, you hear guidance without adjectives. Send that note, drink water now, step outside, wait. The instructions arrive small and exact because the quantum field prefers low bandwidth commands executed with high fidelity. You obey not as a soldier, but as a musician following the key change you begged for. Every clean micro-act lays track ahead of your feet. The corridor brightens one tile at a time. You will notice an ethical clarity riding with the upgrade. The body refuses performance with a firm gentleness. Language trims its ornaments. The appetite for spectacle thins. This is not asceticism, it's optimization. Coherence wastes less. Even kindness becomes sharper, no longer a reflexive rescue, but a precise generosity that respects agency. You are learning the economy of the higher timeline. Fewer apologies for being honest, fewer detours around the exact conversation, fewer loops with people committed to the frequency you just retired. Markers appear in the wild to confirm what your cells already know. Clocks catch your eye at times that rhyme with your vow. A forgotten song volunteers the next sentence you needed. The sky performs an ordinary miracle, clouds parting exactly when you reach the corner. Sunlight finding your upturned palm as if answering a private question. You don't crown these as omens. You let them function as pings, network healthy, connection stable. If you could watch probability recoil graphs of your life, you'd see amplitudes collapsing around a tighter set of outcomes that honor your integrity. Options don't vanish, noise does. The no that used to take days to articulate now arrives on time and smiling. The yes that once hid behind anxiety steps forward with a hand already extended. Agreements simplify. You sign fewer things and mean them more. Notice your gratitude wanting a ritual and remember. The ritual already happened. You breathed in 369. You set a boundary condition with yes. You let the phase transition pressure teach you, not terrify you. Now the lattice pays dividends. Less drag, more lift. Not perfection, precision. The world is not suddenly easy. It is legible. And in legible worlds, courage costs less. Hold here. Feel the afterglow of the hinge, subtle, pervasive, trustworthy. You will carry this steadiness into rooms that forgot what steadiness felt like. You will walk through old neighborhoods, and they will not recognize you, or perhaps they will, with relief, as if you've finally arrived as the person they were waiting to host. The crossing is complete enough to stand. The window remains open enough to bless what comes next. One movement remains, to give the breakthrough a purpose wider than your comfort, not as performance, as promise kept. The field did not calibrate you for display, it calibrated you for service. Keep your instrument tuned. In the closing, you'll receive the assignment that was always implied, your coherence as a lantern for the path we share. Your shift offered back to the species that taught you how to breathe. You crossed, which means the work becomes simple and exact. Hold the frequency that opened the door and offer its corridor to others. Not with spectacle, through presence that keeps the air honest. Your body understands the assignment, breath as metronome, spine as antenna, language as vow. Keep the observer loop clean, and the rest organizes rooms in train. Conversations clarify, decisions spend less life to make. Your mission divides into 3 living directives. First, keep the beam moving. You are a lighthouse, not a searchlight. Rotate attention through what you love without trying to force illumination. Coherence is the persuasion. Patience is the method. When shadows lean, don't perform brightness, embody rhythm. The quantum field recognizes cadence more than opinion. A steady nervous system becomes public infrastructure. Strangers will borrow your timing without asking, and that is grace in practice. Second, build corridors. The future travels fastest down simple rituals repeated with care. Protect the 3, 6, 9 breath, the one-syllable vow, the clean no, the honest yes. Share them as invitations, never as tests. Create spaces where synchronicity can find people, clear tables, clear agendas, clear water. When entanglements arrive, tend them with geometry, agreements precise, exits kind, boundaries intelligent. Culture shifts when corridors outnumber traps. Third, steward thresholds. You now sense the wind at the edges of time. You feel apertures open and close in the bones. When a window tilts for someone near you, be the unhurried witness who says, "I see the doorframe." Breathe, decide. Guard their agency the way you guard your own. Rescue is cheap, stewardship is holy. Let their yes be theirs. We are graduating from saviors to signal keepers. Expect resistance with a smile. Old attractors will invite you to rehearse a self you no longer are. Bow to the museum, leave by the front door. Refuse the loops that harvest your light. Refuse, too, the counterfeit urgency that mistakes noise for summons. Your summons is unmistakable. It arrives with quiet heat and the scent of clean weather. Answer those, and only those. You will not do this alone. The net is already brightening, an archipelago of hearts carrying the same tone. Find them by feel. Steadiness disguised as ordinary kindness. Eyes that widen at truth instead of narrowing. Laughter that leaves no ash. Link without hierarchy. Trade rhythm, not rank. Let morphic resonance do what policy cannot. Let pattern teach pattern until whole streets breathe easier. Remember the ecology of joy. Awakened does not mean austere. Eat food that blesses your cells. Touch the world like it's listening, because it is. Give beauty something to stand on. A swept floor, a well-timed word, a chair pulled forward before someone realizes they needed to sit. These are small hinges that swing enormous doors. The field reads them as proof you meant your crossing. When you forget, and you will return to the simplest coordinates. Palm to sternum, count to 3, hold to 6, release to 9. Whisper the key that cut your path. Feel the click. Begin again without punishment. The lattice does not resent rehearsal. It thrives on it. Ahead, there are rooms that have been waiting for your frequency to exist. There are children who will learn to trust their sensing because you trusted yours. There are elders whose long-held prayers will finally have a body to live in yours. There are cities that will feel, by imperceptible degrees, more navigable because you refused to add noise to the commons. You wanted a mission. This is the shape of one that lasts. Stand now in the doorway you opened, and look back with tenderness at the dark that trained you. See how it gathered so the light could choose a stage. Feel the quiet exhale move through your ribs and out into the room, into the street, into the net that holds us. Let the final line rise from the place behind your breath and set like a seal on everything we built. And when the lights dim again, you will remember this is why reality gets dark, right before your most urgent quantum shift into higher dimensions.